Welcome to another edition of Daily Airline News, focusing on the loss of Air India Flight 171. I'm Jeffrey Thomas, and delighted to say once again, joined by my co-host Richard Godfrey in Frankfurt. Good morning to you, Richard.
And good afternoon to you, Jeffrey.
Well, viewers, today I'm coming to you from Walpole in Western Australia, and I'm on a houseboat. And on that subject, I want to give a cheerio to Rob and Louise, who own Houseboat Holidays, and they're regular viewers of this show. So I promised them a cheerio. So let's get serious. Capacity and capability, episode 245. Let's start with this comment from William Sharp, 5973. There are strong indications Air India cannot manage what they have now. If anything, they should be adding capacity as necessary to do the jobs the way they are supposed to be done, and not increasing workload until it has been demonstrated that they are fully capable of matching in every area critical to success at least the average performance of other successful airlines. Increased workload where capacity is already lacking or strained is a certain path to failure. In fact, the numbers given now suggest there is a serious queuing for service, in turn pointing to latent workload demand that needs to be assessed and addressed with usable qualified capacity to meet it, before adding even more workload. Capacity and capability to use it should be a prerequisite before adding workload. This is true in all critical areas. It all has to work together. Richard, Williams' comments flow on from our discussion yesterday.
They do indeed, and I fully agree with what William is saying. India needs both the capacity and the capability to support their current activities and to support their future plans. In 2023, Air India placed a landmark order for 470 aircraft from Airbus and Boeing, valued at approximately $70 billion based on list prices. At the time, it was widely hailed as one of the largest aircraft orders ever placed by a single airline. However, shortly after that Air India order, Indigo announced an order for 500 Airbus A320 family aircraft, reportedly overtaking Air India as the largest single airline order by volume. And it all goes to show that India is now the country in the world with the largest population of any, and so they need a lot of aircraft. Air India's plan to expand from the current fleet of around 190 aircraft to a target fleet of approximately 570, supported by the firm orders of the 470 new Airbus and Boeing aircraft, represents one of the most ambitious growth strategies in global aviation. And the program implies the eventual retirement or replacement of roughly 90 older aircraft as part of the modernization effort. Its success will depend heavily on Air India's ability to expand maintenance and engineering capacity and develop its technical workforce and ensure strong regulatory oversight to maintain safety and reliability standards.
Yeah. Now, Angels fan 63. I've been an aircraft mechanic for a long time, mainly on US military aircraft, and the things you are reporting about Air India's maintenance practices are scary as hell. It doesn't matter what type of aircraft you're working on, be it military, commercial, or private. As far as maintenance is concerned, a plane is a plane. You are messing with people's lives. You have an obligation to do your work correctly and not half-assed. Pencil whipping the maintenance records goes against everything we are taught. It boggles the mind to think there are mechanics out there doing it. How many more are there out there that haven't been caught yet? Keep up the great videos. I know you'll get to the bottom of this. Richard, we are very, very close, are we not?
Yes, indeed. And we are now ready to present the evidence that allows a determination of the root cause of the crash on the 12th of June 2025, costing the loss of 260 lives. And Angels Fan 63 says, you are messing with people's lives and you have an obligation to do your work correctly. Well, that's a powerful statement. And we believe the root cause of the accident can be traced back to a maintenance issue relating to water ingress in the aft EE bay. And we've done a deep dive into the maintenance on the crash aircraft and on the Air India fleet of Boeing 787-8 aircraft and presented our findings with evidence. In my view, the AAIB India should publish the maintenance records of VT-ANB, and the DGCA India should publish the maintenance records of the Air India fleet. If there's nothing to hide, then full transparency will go a long way to restoring public confidence.
Indeed. Now, before we get on to the next question, Richard, just for the viewers, please do subscribe to us. Please like us. Please do join our community and keep those wonderful comments coming and those great questions coming. We do appreciate them very much indeed. Now, moving on, at Round the World 49, could the RAT deployed accidentally when there were no other problems? Question mark. If so, what impact would this have on the information available to the pilots? Would they think the engines had failed when they hadn't? Richard.
Oh, no, they wouldn't. If the RAT deployed uncommanded and without a reason, the only ICAS message displayed to the pilots would be RAT deployed. If the RAT deployed automatically for a particular reason with the aircraft systems, then the pilots would be looking for further ICAS messages. Engine 1 fail, engine 2 fail, electric bus left lost, the right bus lost, the generator 1 or generator 2 off, electrical system fail, cabin altitude, the hydraulic system center pressure failed. There could be a whole string of ICAS messages that would give them the clues as to what was going on. And if there were no further ICAS messages, then the pilots would conclude that the deployment was spurious. In that case, the crew would correctly suspect one of the following: a spurious RAT deployment command for a false logic signal or a software fault in the power management system, or a mechanical function malfunction, a hydraulic or electrical control circuit caused the RAT actuator to release, or finally, perhaps a ground maintenance error, the RAT not properly stowed, or the test logic inadvertently active. So there's a lot more to this than first meets the eye. So definitely the engines will not fail just simply because the RAT deployed.
Our good friend Padre John Ruffle raises an interesting observation, Richard, and says, might Tata be regretting their purchase of Air India back in January 2022 for a reported 2.4 billion US? 1 year later, the staggering 70 billion order for 470 Boeing and Airbus aircraft was at the time the largest aircraft order in the history of aviation. With Tata's additional commitment of 400 million, that figure seems low to me, for their refurbishment program, along with the new in-house engineering base project, it is clear that Tata are really wanting to turn Air India around quite dramatically, Richard Branson Maverick style. But will Tata be able to do it, and in what time frame? And as part of Tata's turnaround, is it possible that they may be able to re-register the fleet's tail numbers? Who would choose to fly on, for example, VT-ANB? Forget the new livery, which I quite like, by the way. Air India needs a total rebrand ground up. Sorry for this long comment, but let's not forget that there are other interested parties beside Tata. There's Singapore Airlines with a 25.1% stake in Air India, and let's not forget the Star Alliance, of which Air India and Singapore Airlines are both members. The Star Alliance website has this to say about the airline. Air India's young fleet of 118 aircraft comprise a mix of state-of-the-art 787s, Boeing 777s, Boeing 747s, well, not anymore, Airbus A330s, 321s, 320s, and 319s. He asks, is this correct? Well, no. Perhaps Richard and Jeffrey would care to comment on this. God bless. Interesting, Richard.
Yeah. Yeah, the figures are, as you say, out of date. And Air India needs to reinvent itself from the ground up. And that's what we meant in the episode yesterday. We called it Starting from Scratch. The fleet includes Airbus and Boeing types, narrowbody A319, A320, A320neo, and other 321 variants. And then it has a fleet of wide-body A350, Boeing 777, and 787, no 747s. After the Vistara Air India merger, Vistara's fleet was transferred, which has changed the composition and the total numbers. Some sources show slight differences depending on whether aircraft are parked or stored. And some also include ordered aircraft, and others exclude those that are on order. We look at aircraft that are currently active in flight operations in Flight Radar 24. Before the crash, Air India operated 190 aircraft. Obviously, one aircraft was lost, and since then, also one lease has been terminated. But there's still around 188 aircraft operating.
And then, of course, we also have Air India Express with 737s as well.
Yeah.
On the same issue, Ian Gill, 8984, asks, some time ago I mentioned the Boeing aircraft operated by Air India. According to planespotters.net, Air India have 5 of the 27 787s parked up. They have 4 of the 18 777s parked up, and that fleet is on average 5 years older. There are 7 of the 123 Airbus planes parked up, but most of the fleet are narrow bodies and all 6 wide bodies are active. That poses a few questions. Are all the Boeings maintained by the same people? Following on, who maintains the different Boeing aircraft? Who maintains the Airbus fleet? Just a few thoughts. Richard, can you answer that?
Yeah, a few thoughts, but quite a few questions buried in the few thoughts. On the 29th of August, we did an episode number 199 entitled Missing Aircraft. And we went through how many aircraft were actually stored or parked up from the fleet. We were focused on the 787 fleet, not the entire Air India and Air India Express fleet in that episode. And up until the 12th of June, we stayed in that episode, there were on average 55 Air India 787 flights per day. And after the 12th of June, that went down from 55 to only 34 Air India 787 flights per day. We noted a list of those aircraft that were parked up at that point in time. And VT-ANB hadn't flown since the 7th of May. That's before the crash on the 12th of June. But there were 6 others that have been parked up since the crash. And all, except one, are now back in service. And there was one 787-9 VT-TSQ that where the lease has been terminated, and the last flight was on the 15th of August. And the VT-ANG is a 787-8 that is currently stored. And we pointed out more recently that 18 787-8s have been in heavy maintenance, and two of the 787-8s are in retrofit in Victorville, California. The entire Boeing and aircraft fleet is not only maintained by IESL, Air India Engineering Services Limited. And they have various bases around India, but the main bases are in Delhi and in Mumbai. Aircraft are also maintained by Singapore Airlines and Etihad and Cathay and Aramco in Oman, and a whole list of others have helped. And we've mentioned the two in retrofit, and that's at a Boeing facility. So there are a lot of different MRO and retrofit providers who are helping Air India out. And it's not just AIESL who is at work.
Yeah. IDAR Polden 5913. The 787s should be grounded pending investigation of the uncommanded RAT deployments. It is unlikely caused by faulty RATs, but problems with the plane itself causing the request to deploy the RAT. We have discussed water ingress into the EE bays. Each airliner's design, the seating and lavatories layout themselves. Perhaps this is the reason for Air India redesign refurbishment plan. The NTSB concluded that the lithium battery runaway was caused by an electrical design error and not the battery itself. Still, Boeing replaced the battery with another battery design and closed it to contain future fires instead of redesign the electrical design flaw that causes the problem. Richard.
Well, that's not completely correct. The new battery is a redesign of the battery itself. The separation between the individual cells in the battery was increased in the new design. But you're quite right. The majority of the redesign was in the battery systems that check the battery, that control the charging of the battery and monitor the battery for temperature conditions or voltage conditions or current conditions that shouldn't be. In order to announce a ban on Air India flights, the authorities have to prove that the operator is not safe. The crash on the 12th of June by itself is not enough for a fleet-wide ban against Air India. The crash revealing systemic failures, for example, chronic maintenance non-compliance, or falsified records of maintenance, or unaddressed safety findings, or poor regulatory oversight. Now, those conditions would be enough for a ban on Air India. And that's exactly what happened to Pakistan International Airlines, PIA. It was banned in 2020, not because of a single crash, but because it was found that over 260 pilots held fraudulent licenses, indicating a systemic failure of safety oversight by the Pakistan CAA. And what we are doing is building the case of chronic maintenance non-compliance against Air India. It is a slow and painful process, and the Indian authorities are not helping by failing to release the FDR, CVR, and ACARS data, and of course the maintenance logs. And meanwhile, the Indian authorities appear determined to blame the pilots or to blame Boeing. In my view, both of these are a ploy and a diversion tactic from the real issue, which is with a chronic maintenance non-compliance by Air India.
Richard, an interesting comment from Guy UK who asks, why don't the aircraft code letters, registrations, match up with the delivery dates? It would seem to be a very simple way of organising so that the service schedules would be obviously apparent even to someone not in easy access to the data, e.g. AAA in for a C check, AAB should be next. That sounds logical, Richard. You got some thoughts on that one?
Yeah, it is very logical and would be very obvious, but unfortunately, it's more complicated. First of all, there are several dates, key dates in an aircraft's history. The date when manufacture is completed is not the date, obviously, when the aircraft is delivered to an operator. An aircraft can also go from one operator to another, and aircraft can be owned or leased. And an owned aircraft can be sold or a lease can be terminated. And the registration is by each country, and the number is issued at the date of registration in that country. So registrations will not match the manufacturing dates. And the reason why registrations don't match the delivery dates is a little more complex. The reason is that the delivery is a commercial transfer of ownership or lease, while registration is a national legal authorization for operation. And these processes follow separate and sometimes different timelines involving different parties. So an aircraft may be delivered but not yet registered. It may be registered even before delivery or after. Many aircraft are owned by leasing companies like AerCap or Avalon. These entities take delivery from the manufacturer and do a temporary registration under their name. And then when the aircraft is leased to an operator, that operator registers it in their own country at a later point. And when the lease ends, the registration is cancelled and a new registration is issued for the next operator. So they can very easily get out of sync.
I'm out of sync just listening to it. Yeah. Yes, and one of the other dynamics too in this is early on in the program, you get people like Boeing or Airbus before the aircraft is actually certified to carry passengers. They will be building aeroplanes at a fairly brisk rate and parking them at their different facilities and doing test flying. And when the aircraft is finally cleared for commercial service, then the delivery of these aircraft can be all over the shop for a whole raft of reasons. So it can get quite messy at the beginning of a program. Anyway, Scott Nelson, 2384, comments. So when you get behind on maintenance and you start piecemealing the catch-up process, you run into compatibility issues. Richard.
Yeah, well, you're quite correct, Scott. And this can become a massive issue. If you are late on maintenance and try to fix things one at a time rather than the proper sequence or as a complete package, then you may find some components might end up being out of sync. For example, software versions or hardware mods, modifications, or service bulletin configurations can conflict because they were designed to work with certain other updates presumed to have already been installed. If an airline delays several service bulletins on a Boeing 787, then later installs of only some of them, then you have the mess that you're talking about. So you have updated wiring harnesses that don't match older connectors, or you have avionics software expecting new sensors that haven't yet been fitted, and maintenance procedures written for a configuration that the aircraft no longer fully matches. So I'm fully with you on that one, Scott.
Indeed. And the way things are, 8158 asks a great question, Richard. As an everyday person and somewhat nervous plane user now, I'm wondering what established oversight measures are there regarding maintenance records. Thank you both for raising awareness.
Yeah, well, I can appreciate you're a nervous, somewhat nervous passenger these days, but let me try and reassure you at least a little bit. Aircraft travel is becoming safer and safer all the time, and many airlines are world class, and the aircraft they fly are world class, and their maintenance is world class. When an aircraft crash happens, like with Air India 171 costing 260 lives, you can see for yourself the public interest and the intense media scrutiny. But behind the scenes, thousands of people are working to make sure an incident like this does not happen again. And regulators are working to ensure that all aircraft in their jurisdiction are safe. They are responsible in each country for the oversight of the maintenance records. This is much easier, of course, if maintenance records are held in a centralized and secure database designed for the purpose. India are migrating from a paper-based and spreadsheet-based system to a modern system called AMOS. AMOS is the central digital backbone for an airline's technical operations. And what it does is track scheduled and unscheduled maintenance tasks, aircraft configuration and modification status, component tracking and life limits, service bulletins, work orders, job cards, manpower planning, maintenance history and technical records, reliability and planning analytics. And without such a system, then maintenance non-compliance, falsified records, unaddressed safety findings, and poor regulatory oversight is the result.
Yeah. So, Richard, let's finish with this supportive comment from Martin White 418. These two, the best part of my day, accurate and knowledgeable, covering an important issue to the families of those who perished in this crash and who hope for the truth. What else can you ask for? Many thanks. Very kind, isn't it?
It is absolutely very kind statement. Thank you, Martin.
Yeah. So, Richard, thank you very much indeed for answering those questions from the viewers today.
You're very welcome.
And viewers, we're going to be back tomorrow with a very, very special episode called Root Cause. I urge you to watch. I think you'll find it really fascinating. And once again, please subscribe to us. Please like us. Please keep those wonderful comments and questions coming. I assure you, we read them all and we sincerely appreciate them. So we will look forward to your company on Saturday. So please do join us. Thank you very much.